Hello everyone and welcome back along to What the Ruck Happened, the series where we look over the last couple of days of Rugby World Cup action as they happen. I give my thoughts, I give my views, so sit back, relax and hit those comments below with what you think has been happening if you feel a desire to, as well as we have 3 matches to look over today. It is from 2 days action. It is from days 15 and 16. It was the 2 matches coming out of Pool B and Pool C from match 31, which was South Africa, the Springboks, up against the USA Eagles. Then following that, on the same day of 15, we had Namibia up against Georgia, a match I was picking to be quite an entertaining fixture as well. The next match was from the next day, day 16, which has just happened today. It is New Zealand, the All Blacks, up against Tonga. Again, didn't have a huge bearing on what happened out of Pool C, but still another chance for a team to test themselves against the All Blacks. The Tongans were pretty keen for an upset. The All Blacks, of course, were pretty keen for someone to give them a test as well before their quarterfinal matchup against Ireland or France. So we're going to have a look at these 3 matches from the day. Once again, feel free to make a comment below about what you think happened over these 3 matches and ahead, of course. So once again, sit back, relax, and let's enjoy the review of this couple of days' actions. First off, we'll go to Pool B and our Day 15 matchup number 1 between the Springboks and the Eagles, South Africa and the USA. And what a match this was as well. A sold-out stadium, 55,000 people there for this cracking match. Olympic Park, what a stunning stadium, a stunning crowd, an amazing atmosphere as well for this match that, if it wasn't a World Cup, possibly wouldn't have this aroma about it, this amazement about this game. But to have such a huge crowd, it was a big part of this. And I think this game, really, we had to see the South African side that we had all been waiting for. The world beaters, the front runners to claim the Rugby World Cup. One of the favourites. They had to show what they were worth here. And it was, amazingly, the Eagles who got the first chance to score from some points, going for a shot at goal. They had just fell short, even though it was just under halfway to the post. It was a long shot, a good dream, but it was ultimately an unsuccessful attempt, and it was one of very few chances the Eagles had at scoring some points. It was only a minute or 2 later, and the Springboks did have their first try. Quick tap, and over went Damon Dealane, the first try for the Springboks. And, well, if you've tuned into the match, you know that it was one of many. The Springboks side that we've been waiting to see may finally be delivering. So there was a nothing in this here for the Springboks. Just a quick tap and an easy bundle over for a strong running centre like Dealane is. The Eagles had another chance to get themselves on the board, but again, they were unsuccessful. This one coming off the upright. So the USA had a couple of early chances. They could have really been in this match. And the Springboks, though, they were dominating most things about the game and were just looking like they were going to score time and time again. Around the 25th minute, they were camped on the Eagles line, and it was chance after chance after chance. Jesse Krill was held up just on the line. Dealane just went short. The Springboks were absolutely dominating the USA scrum, and finally, they got the second try, going to Mr. Penalty Try, who has got quite a few tries in the last couple of days. So a penalty try from the scrum given to the Springboks after such a long period of domination. Possibly could have been tries to both the inside centres and Jesse Krill and Dealane, but in the end, it was the penalty try that was given for the scrum. South Africa were looking very good. The USA were looking completely out of their depth, but a chance come to them just before half-time. An intercept coming for Scully, and it was on his own line as well. A desperate move, and he absolutely scampered away. Could he go all the way? No. He was run down eventually around the halfway line, and that was possibly one of the biggest chances that the USA Eagles would have in the match, let alone the first half. The scoreline said at halftime, when it was 14 points to 0, that USA weren't completely out of this match. They were only down by 14 points, but it was the mistakes of the Springboks that were allowing them to stay in touch. One imagines if they click in the second half, even halfway, it could be a bloodbath. But the USA need to kick things up in the second half if they're going to have any proud moments to take from this matchup. So that was half-time, and it was 14-0. South Africa leading. Their attack was not the best. It was falling apart. The last passes, the hands were letting them down and giving away penalties at bad times as well. But given that, it was their defence that was well and truly on top of the USA Eagles. So the second half got underway, and I'm afraid the highlights from this half for all the American fans out there were not good, and there's not really going to be much to discuss here as most of the notes say try from the second half. So we'll kick things off here straight after the whistle. It was Brian Habana, instant impact straight into the second half, a turnover at the ruck. I think that was Francois Lowe as well, who was absolutely huge in this match, turning over, De Vlier putting in a kick through the middle, and Habana chases hard, no one at the back. It was a beautiful kick and chase. Habana is one of those players that can make an average kick turn into a very good kick with an extremely good chase as well. Habana had his first of the game, and the Springboks into the 20s now were looking very good to take this game well and truly away from any dreams of the American second half comeback. And then Bismarck du Plessis made very sure of that, getting the fourth try of the match for South Africa. Vermeulen picking go off the back of a scrum. He was just short, but it was a quickly recycled ball that saw Bismarck du Plessis pick it up quickly, go bundling over the top, a crushing hit from him, in for the try, in for the bonus point for South Africa, and with that, they were very quick after that, the South Africans, to take all these key players off, the likes especially of Schalk Burger, very quick to be taken off the field of the game, surely seemingly in the bag for the South Africans, and they'll be looking forward now to quarterfinals rugby, but they'll rely on the B team, well, the bench, not the B team, it's the bench to take care of this game. It wasn't long after that, and they were in for another try. This time it was Francois Lowe from a rolling maul off the line out. There's not much more you can say about that. A rolling maul, we all know how good South Africa are at rolling mauls. It just trundled upfield and over it went easily for the fifth try of the match. We were just short of the hour mark, and Brian Habana made another impactful play in the match. A line-out set piece, Delaney carving straight through the middle like a hot knife through the ham. Sets Habana an easy runaway at the 2-on-1 against the fullback, and we have another try for the Springboks. Just 2 minutes on from that, and they weren't done yet, and neither was Brian Habana. Goes in for his hat-trick try. This was a very strange try. A maul just trundling upfield from the Americans who had the possession into that. It squirts out the back, pretty much pops into Habana's hands, and he gets an easy 10-metre or so run. No one stops Habana that close, and dots down for his 15th Rugby World Cup try, equaling the record by Jonah Lomu himself. You know, and Brian Habana very much one to downplay the impact he has on world rugby compared to the great Jonah Lomu, but still, we all know in this present day, the current day rugby, Brian Habana is one of the greats from the Springboks. That is no question whatsoever. Things went back to basics again for the Springboks as Francois Lowe come piping up again. Another rolling maul. There is no let up here for the Americans, and Lowe is in for a second, and the maul is just far too good for the Eagles to even touch. Jesse Kriel was feeling rather left out of the action, so he was the next one to dot down for the try. This time, the Springboks deciding to use their backline, and it was Morné Steyn who cut through the middle. Good pass to Kriel, who used all his speed and strength to absolutely slice and dice. Too fast, too strong, and he just slammed away to score another try for the Springboks. The match was, thankfully for the Americans, almost up at this point, and there was just one more try, one more highlight to go through this match. It was Mvovo who got the final try right on the full-time whistle. Again, another ruck turnover. The Americans just could not handle this ruck machine that is South Africa. They are just so strong with the breakdown and so hard to stop when it comes to the big plays like that. Another ruck turnover, and Volvo got the ball, thumped it downfield, and there was no one back there for the Americans. Again, we go on about the chase being half the reason of a good kick. No one back, and Volvo, we know he's got speed, and he's got speed for miles. He burned down after his kick, regathered, and scored the final try of the match. A brilliant solo individual effort from a Volvo, a man who has been lucky to get time on this game for the South Africans and has sort of been a specialist bench player, you could say, when you got the likes of Habana out there and JP Peterson, who has been absolutely phenomenal for the Springboks, scoring tries for fun. And Volvo, good job for him to get himself on the scoreboard. All you can say for America is thankfully that is over. It was a painful match. They had very, very little opportunities and they didn't take any of them. They had a few shots at goal, as I said earlier, but they missed. They hit the post, nothing went right, and in the second half, well, as we said at half time, it was only, a matter of if the Springboks clicked, it was curtains for the Americans, and that happened very much so. Brian Habana did have a big chance in that second half as well to score a fourth try, but he did spill the ball over the line. That would have made him out and out the #1 Rugby World Cup try scorer. He'll be disappointed he's missed that chance, but I'm sure there will be plenty more chances for Brian Habana in the rest of this World Cup. The South Africans, we know how good they are, we know how good they can be, but this is a real signal that maybe they have arrived and peaking at exactly the right time for the Rugby World Cup. 64-0 was the full-time score, 50 points exactly added in the second half by the Springboks. What an amazing turnaround from the first to the second half, but we know how good the South African side is, and they have delivered here. And the poor old USA Eagles, well, they are the ones who have wore the brunt of the South African wave. Big damage, 64 points to zip. I don't know if the 64 will hurt as much as the 0 does for the Americans, but that surely, well and truly, has wrapped up Pool B. USA firmly planted to the bottom of that pool. South Africa now at the top. And amazingly, they are done as well. They have played 4 of their matches, so they are the only team to be finished. They are 6 points clear at the top, unable to be beaten. The Americans still have 1 match still to go, and they are down on 0 points for them. They play Japan in their final matches. Scotland and Samoa, who actually play tomorrow for that final match for those two as well. We turn our attention now to Pool C for the 32nd match of the Rugby World Cup at Sandy Park in Exeter for this lower tier matchup, but what I think could be one of the big games as far as Rugby World Cup goes, as far as closeness and excitement goes for these sides. Namibia versus Georgia. Nothing really riding on it for these sides. Georgia, they still do threaten possibly against Argentina, although be wanting mainly that third place spot, which Namibia were the only side that could really threaten it if they got 2 wins from their last 2 matches. Unlikely, but always possible in this Rugby World Cup the way it's gone. But Georgia, they have been the better looking side, beating Tonga of course and putting in some good showings against the other sides as well. Definitely a team on the rise. But Namibia, Georgia, Pool C, it should be a good one. I was expecting big things from these two sides in this Pool C matchup. And it didn't take long either before we had our first opportunity for points. It was an offside straight off the kickoff coming from the Georgian player and hitting a player in front of him, making him an offside player. Kind of confusing way to explain it there, but an offside penalty nevertheless, and a chance already inside the first minute for the Namibians to open up with 3 points. They look to their key man as well, Kutsa, to open up the scores, which he did exactly there, nailing the shot at goal, and Kutsa had the opening 3 points for Namibia. He didn't stop there though, Kutsa. Straight after that play, the opportunity arose to have a shot at a drop goal, which he did take, but did not get any success. But it just goes to show that Namibia were looking to accumulate points any way possible, as soon as possible, just wherever they could, and that's exactly what their game plan was built around, because as we all expected, the Georgians, when it come to front row and forward pack dominance, they were crushing the Namibian forwards. The Namibian scrum was going backwards and was getting absolutely destroyed by the Georgians. So there's big reason why you can understand that they are looking to Kotze to accumulate as many points as possible any given chance. The Namibians suffered a very big loss though, very early on as well, with Jacques Burger going off with a concussion test. I mean, he is the inspirational player in this Namibian side. He is the one and only, player they would not want to lose if they could choose. He went off. Would he be back again? We would find out soon, but he had to go for a concussion test, or whatever their special word is for it. We all know what it is, eventually, a concussion test with the head. So he was gone. Questions now were really being asked about the leadership of this Namibian side and who would take over and control this team. It seemed like the Georgians were in for the first try as Tudua was in the corner, but the TMO called this one all the way back for a knock-on earlier in the play. Now, this is something I've gone on and on about before, but the TMO, I don't think, can really judge on stuff like this too far back, especially if not specifically asked about it. The TMO went all the way back for it. It was given no try, and the Georgians were still trailing at this point as well. But the question of the TMO keeps on cropping up. If they just keep on impacting the games like this, why don't they just referee the whole thing? It was a big chance for Georgia, and they were dominating everything in this match, the Georgians, but they just couldn't get the points. They just couldn't get the tries. They were dominating the scrums, dominating the forwards, dominating possession, territory, everything you can think of, but they just couldn't get the points. The Namibian defence was holding tight so far. Kotze had another chance to add some more points for Namibia, and there was no problems for this goal kicker. He is an absolute machine when it comes to adding these extra points. It was 6-0 to Namibia inside quarter of an hour, which is huge that they've held out the Georgians this well, and they've had some big chances as well. They've dominated every single passage of the match, yet they've not scored any points whatsoever. 6-0, Kotze himself leading the Namibians nicely in this first half of the first half. Jacques Burger would not return though after this point. 18 minutes into the match, they would be without their inspirational player, their inspirational captain. Namibia, this was when the real heart was going to happen. How would they recover? How would they progress without him on the field? This was a massive turning point of the match, but could the Georgians find a way to take advantage? They were still on top, the Georgians, creating the chances, but their hands were letting them down, and the Namibian defence was well and truly holding tight. The Namibian defence was all that was keeping them in this game, and they were relying 100% on getting sneaky chances to players like Kotze to put the extra 3 on, slowly try and build up some points, and hope that their defence could keep holding on. The TMO called back a play later on in the first half and dished out a yellow card, which was going to the Georgian hooker Brodvonsky, who departed for 10 minutes. He got the first yellow card of the match, but this is where the game started to get a bit strange as we went late into the first half. Things really got a bit weird. Georgia were on attack, and after multiple penalties, it was another yellow card. This time, Larson, the tight head prop for Namibia, got a yellow card for some cynical ruck infringements. So both teams went down to 14 players. So Georgia still on attack as the match had not finished for the first half. They were still just 5 meters out from the Namibian line, and the defense was still holding tight. There was scrum reset after scrum reset. The referee was not letting this one go to bed. The Georgians could not break down the Namibian defense, and it just went on and on and on. There was another yellow card in the 49th minute of the first half. That's right, this game was almost 10 minutes over time in the first half. So from scrum penalties, it was another yellow card. And it looked like, following that, when Namibia were down to 13 men, Georgia were down to 14 men. Just keep this in mind, 3 yellow cards pretty much in extra time in the first half, it finally looked like Georgia were over to score the try, but it got pulled back, unbelievably called back for a forward pass against Georgia. That one did end the first half, and finally, 49 minutes in, we went to half-time, 6-0. This game was absolutely exploding. It was fierce. It was one team dominating, the other team leading, and they were holding on to everything for dear life for that whole half. And amazingly, it went on for almost 50 minutes. A first half for that long is just extraordinary. Some stats from that first half. Attacking meters. Georgia 290, Namibia 45. Clean breaks, Georgia 9, Namibia 0. That just gives you some indication about how one-sided this game was, but the scoreboard said something completely different. It said Namibia 6, Georgia 0 at half-time. Early on in the second half, we're straight to the action, and it was the Georgians who struck first, straight out of the half-time break. Still got that two-man advantage as well. It was Gorgonza, the big man, the inspirational captain that Georgia did still have. Finally, after so long and so many chances, he charges through from close range and scores the first try of the match, and that put the Georgians in a strong position finally to get that victory. The controversy wasn't over yet though, as Boffa from Namibia, the number 8, got another yellow card for a high tackle that ultimately led to that try for Gorgonza. So the game was actually pulled back to dish out the yellow card to Boffa, and then we carried on, awarded the try, and moved on from there. So the Namibians were really in trouble. They got one man back just as they lost Bofma after that try, and then it was the Georgians who really started to gain the incentive. It was another try, the second in 6 minutes. That was Malagaraza who scored the second try for Georgia. A line-out set piece, and it was an easy play. Just bulldozed his way over the play, giving him the half gap he needed, and through he went to give the Georgians a 14-6 lead over Namibia. With all those men in the sin bin and so much chopping and changing and players playing out of position to allow for the gaps that the yellow cards resulted in, the Namibians really lost their way around the hour mark, and they struggled, especially with conceding those true tries. It seemed like it would be too much for them to get back into this match. It took until the hour mark before they were back to 15 men, and in the meantime a couple of penalties were traded per side, and the score was up to 17 points to 9, an 8-point difference. Georgia with the lead. Namibia did get a rare period of possession though, created by their big number 8 who was back on the field after his yellow card, Bofma, and I think he was one of the best players from the time he come back from the sin bin till the very end. Bofma was probably my man of the match for the impact he had on that 20 or so minutes. He was the main creator behind a Namibian try that eventually went to Kotza, who just skidded over in the corner, and it was all of a sudden game on as Kotza, this man is an absolute miracle worker, nailed a sideline conversion like it was just a Sunday stroll. He has to be one of the best goal kickers out there, and his team, their performance reflects massively on him when he gets the kicks. It just gives his side a boost to know they have a goal kicker that can take it. So a rare chance taken from Namibia, who took every single little scrap that was thrown to them from Georgia and made something of it every single time. Got to the try and the conversion. It was 17-16. Georgia hanging on by the skin of their teeth. Namibia were throwing everything they had, but it was resulting often in mistakes with drop balls, forcing passes, giving away penalties, and ultimately Georgian defence, that once they did have the ball, they did everything within their power to not let it go. They controlled the game while they had the ball, and they weren't going to do any silly kickaways, the Georgians. Namibia were giving everything they had, but ultimately they will fall 1 point short. Heartbreak for Namibia, but a fantastic game from the Namibian side. Georgia, I think, played extremely well, but their inability to create points and build points nearly nearly lost in the match, and how much will Namibia rue all those yellow cards? An absolute insane amount of yellow cards between these two sides. I mean, so much difference could have been made if there was 15 players on the field for Namibia for that whole match. Ultimately, they lost 3 players, 2 in the 40th minute, 1 in the 50th, and for most of that match, they were down to 13 or 14 players, which you just can't win a game when you're that many players down against a team like Georgia who controls the match so very well. So in the end, 17-16, Georgia get the win, but wow, what a game it was. I'm pleased my prediction was fairly close as well, because I think those two sides definitely have good ability and have grown massively in the last few years as well. Namibia is rooted to the bottom of the ladder. They have 1 game remaining, and that is against Argentina. Possibly won't go too well for them there, but of course they have the bonus point, so they have something out of it. Georgia up to 10 points with no more games left. 2 wins, 2 losses for them. I think a good performance from the Georgians. They have gained automatic promotion, or automatic qualification, I should say, into the next Rugby World Cup, and they finished 3rd. Argentina, game in hand, still in 2nd, and the All Blacks almost perfect points, 19 from their 4 matches so far, and we will cover their 4th match right now, their final match, and the Tongans' final match. It was this one, the 16th day of the Rugby World Cup from Pool C, and the 33rd match of the tournament. New Zealand up against Tonga, a rematch of the 2011 Rugby World Cup opener. Tonga were talking big on this match. They had the confidence and belief that they could upset the All Blacks, and they were going into this match believing that they had the ability to do so. And there is nothing like both sides with their huckers to lead out the game head-to-head like that. It is just one of those great things about rugby. The All Blacks and Tonga going all out it there at the start. The crowd loved it. St. James Park was packed. And it was Ma'anonu's 100th international cap as well. There was a lot of milestones in this game, and it had potential to be a cracker as well. Big stadium, cheering on both sides equally. It's like everyone is a neutral, and they're really cheering on some action and some big try-scoring plays from both sides. The Tongans were the first to do some early threats, though the most dangerous of all went to Vainakolu as he made a big break off a missed high ball from the All Blacks, and he did scamper away very quickly. He's very elusive, very strong, and hard to put down, and that was the biggest chance straight off the whistle for the Tongans, who didn't get a huge amount of chances in this match. It was quickly diffused, though, the All Blacks on top of the game very early on. As we've seen with most of the All Blacks games this season, they are quite slow to get underway, and they were making quite a few breakdown errors especially, and giving the Tongans some early opportunities, some early confidence-building abilities. And I think one thing I noted about this game straight off the whistle from early chances was that Dane Coles was often on the wing. Now, I know how good he is and probably could be capable enough to play on the wing, but does he play out there a little too often? If anything, this was more of a question to what everyone's opinion was on this. He's great on the wing, he's great at finishing plays, getting offloads away and linking between players, but does he sit out there for too often, especially in this game? Was he expecting to be on the end of some fancy moves for the All Blacks, and he just didn't seem to be very impactful alone out there for New Zealand? But you know, he is so good, he is so fast and strong as well. He's an asset wherever he does end up. The scrums were another pretty big talking point from this match, given that it was on quite a soft turf as well. It was probably half the reason, but there was quite a lot of scrum resets. The scrums were falling over, the front rowers were losing grip and balance and getting pinged for, you know, stuff that wasn't really their fault. The field was absolutely getting ripped to shreds and destroyed. There was absolute chunks out of it, as you could see. Players in both teams' packs losing their footing quite regularly. It's something that shouldn't really impact big matches as well. I can see here, you know, a game like this, the All Blacks versus Tonga, shouldn't really have any chance of an upset, but the things like this can give, you know, that chance and that threat And I guess that's the thing about playing on football fields as well, is the softness of the turf and how they get torn up so easily. It took just 12 minutes for the All Blacks to get their first try of the match, and it was very quick hands, very, very good play from backs and forwards alike to quickly switch the ball between about 4 or 5 players, make the break. Sam Cane showed that he can step. Milner Scudder was involved, Cane, Ben Smith, Conrad Smith, but eventually it was Ben Smith who finished the play, scoring a very nice try. The All Blacks showing that their hands can do them justice when they get it right. Tonga replied not far after with the first 3 points of the match for them after a very strong passage of play in the 22, getting the penalty and deciding that they'll take the 3 points on offer. Maraf, the man to take the first penalty to go the way of the Tongans. There was a massive break following that penalty goal that come from the kickoff. The All Blacks with a big overlap, massive chance, huge breakaway, open field everywhere, 5-on-2, and Waisake Naholo. You can call him Magic Man when he does something brilliant, but this was absolutely horrible. Massive overlap. He would have looked up, seen one defender, looked out to his left, and seen 4 teammates waiting for the ball, and he drops it. He drops a certain try. What an absolute amazing drop that was. Just couldn't believe it. Something so cut and dry. He spilt that, and that was something that would go against the mark against his name after all the debate about him being in the squad, recovering from his injury. Then he got injured again. Now he's not shown too much form against Tonga. The winger spots are really up for grabs, and it's only really one man goes by the name of Nehe Milner Scudder who's showing his worth out there on the wingers. But the All Blacks did get the try very soon after that. In the half an hour mark, it was Tony Woodcock, his first try since the 2011 Rugby World Cup final. Can you believe he's almost gone 4 years exactly to the day between tries? Absolutely unbelievable. An easy finish for him. A short little ball. He just charges over a strong man. Doesn't score many, especially in matches like this against teams like Tonga. He likes to normally do them against Australia, but that was his 10th Test try, and the thing he hasn't scored one since 2011 is just amazing. I think the All Blacks did get rather lucky though in about 36-minute mark when Ben Smith made a tip tackle that did go over the horizontal, but not given as a yellow by the referee. Now, although the tackle wasn't bad, he did land on his back and not his neck or shoulders. I think that you want consistency here, and if that's a tip tackle over the horizontal, previously we've seen that's a yellow card. Regardless of how they land, it's the danger of the tip tackle that really gives it, that power to be a yellow card. Ben Smith got away with it and was not given a yellow card. The All Blacks survived getting a yellow card, and they actually survived for a few more minutes yet before that come to tell. It was just a minute later when it was Kieran Reid eventually the one who got given the yellow card. Tonga on a huge amount of attack here inside the All Blacks 22, and it was Reid who got the yellow card for collapsing the maul. One of many mauls. The All Blacks did not seem to know how to completely pull these down or stop them. They were getting very close to the line, Tonga, and the All Blacks were determined to stop them scoring that try. It was massive New Zealand defence just on halftime. Tonga having 5-metre scrum after 5-metre scrum after 5-metre scrum, but they could not breach the 14-man All Black defence. It was massive for the All Blacks to hold out for that time. It wasn't going to have too much effect on the game. The Tongans obviously would like to score a try, but you've got to think back here at the All Blacks who wanted to keep a clean sheet when it comes to tries, and this was a huge, immense amount of pressure that they managed to withhold. They went to halftime eventually with only just one man in the bin somehow. 14-3 in the lead, unconvincing again, with the All Blacks we know are very slow starters it seems in this World Cup. If you're ever going to punish them, you need to do it early, and that's what Tonga missed out on doing, but other teams should be noticing well and truly that is the trick to do against the All Blacks. They did get off to a better start in the second though, an amazing break earlier on. Carter inside ball for Aaron Smith, cut away to Ben Smith, and it just broke down short of the line. The All Blacks were looking much more aggressive, much more attacking in the second half. already. Tonga, though, were piling on the pressure with penalties inside the 22, 19 phases. And they eventually left with just 3 points. 19 phases Tonga attacked here. Can you believe how long and how much pressure they put on the All Blacks? Again, before halftime and after halftime, they absorbed a huge amount of pressure, and the Tongans just got the 3 points. 14-6 to scoreline, but the All Blacks, they were starting to look frustrated, like we've seen against Georgia and Namibia when the other team started to slow the game down and started to cram the All Blacks in the way they played. They got frustrated. Let's be fair, they got completely pissed off, and I don't think that's really what you want to do, because it did result in some big hits and some big momentum shifts as well. And when that stuff goes on perfectly, the All Blacks really get rolling. They cam themselves down on the Tongan line, and eventually the try went out to right winger Nehe Milner-Skudder. With a long period of pressure, it was a very simple finish for Milner-Skudder. He always has work to do, and he always knows how to do it. Daniel Carter, the man with the foresight to see the opportunity wide, a massive pass over to Milner-Skudder, who showed his power to take a couple of defenders over the line and score the try for the All Blacks, just their third try in the second half. Tonga did create some more pressure after that, and they, again, were happy to take the 3 points and not really put pressure on the All Blacks defence, which they had done for probably a good 20 minutes of the game, leading both before and after half-time, 10 minutes either side. Tonga definitely were in with a chance to score, but just took 3 again, 21-9. They couldn't quite get that try they wanted. Then there was a kickoff, and wow, things really happened after that kickoff. Ben Smith took a juggling kickoff, went high for it, bounced off his chest, regathered it, then threw it away to Bone and Barrett. Bone and Barrett grabbed it through. Milner-Skudder was too fast, chased it all the way down and scored another try. It was possibly one of the greatest tries we have seen by the All Blacks in this Rugby World Cup. Just Barrett quickly, he was only on the field, it was his first touch, and Ben Smith catching that kickoff, breaking the line, and then keeping the ball recycled away to Barrett, who quickly grubbers through, and Milner-Skudder showed just how quick he is, and he was easily through, and he almost stole the try from Conrad Smith, who was right behind him. So another try for the All Blacks, and a great show of what they are capable of. The second half, they really seemed to come alive. The Tongans were fading away. Their all discipline was starting to come into the game. The tackles are starting to get a bit dodged. The mistakes are seeping in as well. The All Blacks hit again, scoring another try, this time Sonny Bill Williams. And you have to credit this one to Aaron Smith. Just how good is Aaron Smith when he's on song? He is so much better than any other halfback or scrum half in the world when he's good. And when he's bad, he's about on par with the rest, and that's how fantastic he is. He set this try up single-handedly, went to his left, then flicked it out the back of the hand to Sonny Bill Williams, completely and utterly unmarked, to scoot on through and score another try. Sonny Bill on pace. It was sensational from Aaron Smith and Sonny Bill. The communication is fantastic. As I mentioned just before, Tonga was starting to lose composure, and a horrible, dreadful tackle on Daniel Carter, almost putting him out as the whole country goes into a big holding of the breath when Carter and McCaw go down injured. But this one surely was a yellow, and yes it was, but this again, we go to consistency. Although Carter did land very, very badly compared to the way Ben Smith's tackle landed, I think both should have been a yellow card. They were both tip tackles, both over horizontal, and both could have been extremely damaging tackles to the player involved. The Tongan player got a yellow, and I feel the Tongan players were right to say, why does he get a yellow card and Ben Smith didn't get a yellow card early? I think that's just. I think that's fair to say that, and I think they have a very good point. I think that was quite poor against the Tongans to be so inconsistent for something like that. So with Tonga a man down, the All Blacks were putting the foot on the throat. Sam Cane, off the back of a rolling maul, just breaks off, peels around, bulldozes over a couple of defenders, and scores another try for the All Blacks, who are cantering home with this one as well. Tonga, by this stage, they had lost all sorts of normalcy about their game. Every tackle was, very, very shouldery. It was high. It was lifting players. It was getting dangerous. There was also uncontested scrums because, of course, the substitute was yellow carded, which means the player he replaced was injured, so could not come back on the field. It was all bad for Tonga. Things were going downhill for them very, very quickly with the uncontested scrums, just putting the sugar on top for the Tongan side. Ma'anonu finished things off with a try in his 100th test. Nehemiah Skala breaking away, an easy one off the kick, and the support ready and waiting, and Ma'anonu, who just slides over, numbers game for the All Blacks, and a big try, and congratulations to Ma'anonu as well, his 100th test, grabbing a try as well, and just really put the icing on the cake for the All Blacks, who, in the end, over the 80 minutes, were far too good for Tonga. It was expected to be like that. The final score was 47-9. I think Tonga probably should have chanced their arm a bit more when they had those penalties inside the All Blacks 22. Probably really to get a try would have been massive for them, but they couldn't manage it. The All Blacks did hold on throughout the full 80 minutes, scoring a whole host of tries as well. 5 in the second half, 2 in the first, giving them 7 tries to New Zealand to zip to Tonga. Just 3 penalties to Morath going their way. So a disappointing display from Tonga. Their World Cup ends in pretty disappointing fashion as well. Second to last, they finished 4th. Just 1 win after they lost to Georgia as well. 6 points for them from their World Cup campaign. They are going home. 4 matches complete for the Tongans, and that rounds out my piece for today. Thank you for tuning and watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Let me know what you think about the 3 matches as well in the comments below if you've got any thoughts about them, and I will see you all next time. We will have 3 matches coming out from Pool B, A and A. Samoa versus Scotland, a pretty important match for Pool B as we quickly have a look at that. Scotland could not be beaten by Samoa, but they could possibly be passed by Japan. If Samoa win and beat Scotland and Japan beat USA, then there is a possibility that Japan could qualify second. That's what's riding on that match for the Scots. Australia-Wales, another massive match out of Group A, and this will decide who will top the pool for the quarterfinals. Obviously, the team that does win it will go to the perceived easier side of the knockout stages, and they will not meet South Africa in the quarterfinal. Then finally we have England up against Uruguay. Not much to celebrate here for the English. I see they've made a whole host of changes for their team leading into this match against Uruguay. Can things get any worse? Well, yes, they possibly could, but I expect not for the English. But that wraps me up for today. Thank you everyone for tuning and watching. Let me know your thoughts again in the comments as always, and I'll see you all next time for plenty more What the Ruck Happened. But until then, our final couple of days of Rugby World Cup pool play are about to take place, and then, well, it's all into the real action, and it's only every weekend then as well. So plenty to come, plenty more action coming your way. Pool play is almost done and dusted, but until next time, take care.